lovely people. Welcome back to another session of SprintX, the ultimate countdown. I'm your teacher, Arshpreet, and I teach social studies. So today we'll be talking about outcomes of democracy, and we'll be covering this chapter with respect to CBSE class 10th board exam, whatever the question marking scheme is, 1 mark, 3 marks, and then 5 mark questions. So we'll be looking according to the questions as per their marking scheme. So let's get started. So the very first question before I start with the 3 mark question is going to be for 1 mark. So you guys have to be very attentive. Should I start? Okay, so let's go. The very first question is, what should be the basic outcome of democracy? What do you think should be the basic outcome of democracy? Very important question. This has been asked in CBSE 2014 exam. So what do you think is the answer? Okay, so the answer is right. So the most basic outcomes of democracy should be that it produces, that's right, that it produces a government. So it basically produces a government that is more responsive to the needs of the people, that is accountable to the people. So three things: accountable, good, responsive to the needs of the people, and expectations. So you've covered all the important point, expectations of the citizens. So rather than using the word people, try to write as, put it as citizens. Okay, so the next question is interesting. So the next question is, what are the common features? What are the common features of democracy all over the world? Like all over the world. Okay, they hold elections, good. They hold elections, that's okay. The second is, they have formal institutions. Cool. What else? Okay, they have political parties, good. Political parties. And can I say yes, they also guarantee rights of citizens rather than people. So we'll be using here word that is citizens. So these are the common features that are seen all over the world when it comes to democracy. Okay, so let's start with move to the third question. Okay, what are the basic elements? Like these we discussed the features. What do you think? What are the basic elements of democracy? Like the basic components that come together to have a setup of or have a democratic setup. What do you think are the elements? Okay, getting some very good answers. Okay, liberty and equality. What else? Like 4 points. Fraternity, good. Fraternity basically means brotherhood. Fraternity and national unity. These are the basic elements. Then there is international. Guys, please mind it. This can be asked in 3 mark question also. So I'm covering it with that respect. International understanding, and you need to have a broader outlook. And the last point is universal adult franchise. Very good. So these are the 4 elements: liberty, equality, fraternity and national unity, international understanding, and broader outlook. And that means you're not looking at the other nation with respect to with the intention of colonizing it, but you are giving a broader outlook that you have a friendly relationship with the other country. And then last important is universal adult franchise. Okay, what's the next question is, okay guys, can you talk about different forms of or maybe some forms of social disparity? I'm talking about social disparity. Okay, the one is gender, or okay, gender, ethnicity. Cool. What else? Caste, religion. Okay, and what else? Can I talk about regionalism also? So these are the four social disparities that we see in the society. Okay, so the next question is very, very important, guys. This has been asked in CBSE 2015 exam. So let me be very clear on this. So the question is it often, it's often said that democratic government are basically, they are very slow, they are less efficient, and not always very responsive or clear for that matter. So how far do you agree with this view? So they are asking your viewpoint on this statement. Okay, so what do you think should be the answer to this question? Okay, so the answer should be, see, there are some gains of truth in it. Like, of course, every statement is not true in itself, but yes, we must always realize that democratic government is people's own government. Please underline this thing. It is people's own government which is accountable to the people who have put it, or who have got the right to criticize the government, and and of course they get it, everything has its two sides, so they get it free from all its evils also, because every democracy has it tries to evolve over and over again. Whenever there's some challenge, the democracy tries to work on it and try to come out with the best results. That is what's the best point about democracy. Autocratic regime or dictatorship would not invest a lot on changing its setup, or bringing in benefits to the people, delivering whatever the people are looking for. But in a democratic setup, the more you challenge it, the more it gets an opportunity to change its working and bring out the best that would probably work for the people and for the betterment of the country. So yes, you have to give a positive outlook to this, that it's people's own government, it's more or less accountable. So in democratic setup, yes, the decisions are not taken in a haste, but we ensure that even the economic benefit, if we compare about dictatorship and democratic nations, the growth prospects of dictatorship has reached heights, good height. But in democratic, the process of development is very slow. But at least democracy tries to ensure that there's equitable distribution of wealth. This is how you're supposed to justify that statement. And what if they ask you why democracy is a better form of government? Why do you think is it a better form of government? Of course, we'll be covering it in 3 mark also. It has been asked a lot of times. So yes, because it promotes equality among the citizens. Second, it enhances the dignity. Third, it improves the quality of decision making. Of course, it provides room to correct mistakes. And what if I say it provides a method to resolve conflict or different conflicts that take place? So equality, dignity, quality of decision making, room to correct own mistakes, and also helps to resolve conflicts. Cool. So let's proceed. I hope we can jump to the next question. Guys, what do you understand, by the way? We just discussed the word dignity. What does this donate? The word dignity, what do you understand by it? Okay, it denotes dignity, basically means a privileged position, or maybe a very hard earnable rank that you have, or maybe an importance that is given to any particular post, that is dignity, or any personality. That is the meaning of the word dignity. And which country has successfully been able to negotiate the differences that were there in its population? Any guess? We discussed it in the previous chapters. Cool. It is Belgium. If you talk about Belgium and Sri Lanka, Belgium has been able to accommodate and negotiate the differences that were there in the population. Okay, and what if I ask, what is the common feature of the democratic countries all over the world? Like every democracy, yes, some of the democracies are there on the face of it. Some are actually having democratic setup, but some are having one party system. So stuff. But what is some one thing that is common in all of those? Can you guys guess? Just think of it for a minute. Something that's very important to hold elections, that actually run the government, that formulate the policies. That's a very important feature that's seen all over the world in all the democracies. Think, yes, it's right. They are political parties. Okay, guys, can I say what are the, if I talk about the important elements again of a democracy, you can also talk about that there is free election. Other elements of democracy, there are political parties, since we just talked about them. And there is right of citizens for upliftment. May it be in the field of socio-economic platform, may it be or may it be in the social area, or maybe it in the economic field. So it's very important for the to work for the upliftment of the people. Okay, and last question, do you think like what do you understand by the concept when that shows that many political or the practice that democracies did not fulfill one evidence that probably shows negative part, that shows that okay, that in practice actually the democracies, they have not been able to fulfill the expectations of the people. That's basically criticized a number of times, like I just discussed it a minute back. Yes, it is the economic growth. So they've not been able to have an economic growth. A good economic growth has not been observed in the democratic country. So that is as it's not higher as compared to the dictatorship regimes. So that is why we face a lot of problems when we talk about the difference between dictatorship and political parties. Cool. So let's jump, let's discuss the first question of for 3 mark in this case. The very first one is right here. Okay, so how does democracy stand superior? So they're asking democracy, it stands superior to any other form of government in promoting dignity and freedom of individuals. So they're talking about dignity and individuals. You have to give suitable examples with respect to dignity and freedom of citizens or maybe individuals. So the correct answer to this question would be yes, democracy stands way too superior when it comes to any other form of government in promoting, because number one, the something that you're going to talk about, what do you think? How dignity is maintained, like even the so just try to understand the meaning of the word dignity. Can I say dignity is basically ensured because you treat every person or keep every person at par and give that equal status to, may it be rich, may it be poor, may it be marginalized section, may it be someone from the minority. So yes, democracy ensures dignity comes with equality. So it promotes equality, it gives equal treatment to every person. Second thing is it involves every person is involved in decision making process. So yes, every person has the right to get information. So they have the right to get the information. So that is, there is freedom, there is dignity associated with it. And also I would say the passion for respect and freedom is they are the basis of democracy, and we ensure that there is respect, there is freedom. Unless and until you're not free, you cannot live a dignified life. So there is a passion when it comes to democracy, that we have to ensure there's respect, there is freedom, so that form the very basis of democracy. It also accepts that, you know, women are given equal treatment, unlike the other non-democratic countries. Like initially Saudi Arabia had a very tough time when it comes to giving equal rights to the women. But here women had waged a long struggle. They had a very tough time, to talk about, to get their rights recognized, to get voting rights, to get inheritance right. So they had a very tough time. Now in a democratic setup, yes, they can stand up for their rights, they can wage a war for equality. So yes, democracy recognizes the principle of equal treatment to women, unlike other non-democratic government. And also there's it also applies to the caste inequality, not only to women but also the caste inequalities. Democracy, if we talk about India, it has strengthened the claims, or given a lot of recognition and benefit to the disadvantaged and the discriminated caste, for equal status, for equal opportunity. So these are all the points. And also I would say democracy has to meet the expectation. It tries to meet the expectations of the citizens. And people have a right to complain. They have every right to complain about the functioning of the democracy. So because you can complain, because you have a freedom, you have equality, you have dignity, you have respect, you take part. So it's like, imagine it's your own household, and how can you ensure that yes, my parents are giving me freedom? Even when they're ordering something, they take your you into account, that okay, what do you want to have? And let's say when somebody comes and gives a packet of chocolate to your brother and not to you, they ensure that equal respect is given to both of you, even if you've not scored well, or you're disinterested or least interested in a subject like social studies. They ensure that there is no discrimination. Or maybe even if you score really less, they ensure that there is no discrimination. May it be a girl, may it be a boy, everybody's, both of them, they're treated equally at par. So there is equality, there is a concept of decision making. And yes, they give you a fair they play a very fair game when it comes to redressal of complaints, listening to the complaints that you have, listening to the complaint that your sibling have. So they listen to it very carefully. So just ensure that, like you live in your family, similarly the government also treats the same way when it comes to its citizens. So let's see what the answer has with it. So here you go. So it enhances the dignity of an individual. So by giving them equal, every person is given equal treatment. Then it involves them in the decision making. So please underline these points. Dignity you have to underline. You have to underline decision making. It's effective because it provides room to correct the mistakes. Again, you can underline this. And it's people's own government. That I very, when I talked about it, I told you it's people's own government. Now, before I proceed to the next question, guys, what if they ask you what is meant by transparency? When I talk about transparency, it means it is the right or the means to examine the process of decision making. That is when you talk about transparency. This is a definition that I wanted to talk about, that it is the right or the means to examine the process of decision making. Cool. Let's proceed. What do we have? The next question. What is it all about? Democracy is better form of government than any other form or forms of government. You have to justify that. Okay, let's see how we can justify, or maybe it has the other way can be democratic government, it's better than its other alternative forms. Why? What do you think are the basic examples? Because yes, is it legitimate? Yes, it is legitimate government. Is it accountable? The one we talked about? Yes, it is accountable. Then it is responsive. Yes, then it promotes equality among the citizens. Yes, it enhances whatever we talked about, it enhances the dignity of the individual. Yes, it enhances the dignity, that it improves the decision making process. It does, and it also provides room to correct mistakes. So these are some of the basic points that you can take care of when you answer this. Apart from this, let me answer it in a better way. Like, these are the basic points that you have to keep in mind when you answer a question like this. Legitimate, accountable, responsive, promotes dignity, equality, improves decision making, and gives room to correct the mistakes. So how are you supposed to attempt it? See, democracy is not a, it's not a mere form of government. It is a form of society. It is not just a form of government, it is a form of society, I would say, as well as a form of social order. So not a government, but a form of society, how the society is running, or what is the social order. So yes, it is always preferred, or maybe preferable and superior to any other form of government. What are the reasons that you can support? This is the introduction that you gave, that it is a sort of form of society, or maybe social order. It is preferable, it is superior. Why? What are the reasons associated with it? Number one, it promotes, like we just talked about, it promotes equality among citizens. Now, when I talk about it promotes equality among citizens, it means each citizen is given equal rights and freedom. So there is no discrimination that is made on the basis of caste, color, sex, creed, religion, anything. So democracy, it aims at equitable distribution of income, of products, of wealth, and stuff like that. Second is it enhances, like we talked about, it enhances dignity of individuals. So when I talk about dignity, that means it permits, when you have dignity, it permits it permits political equality among the citizens, and also there is an absence, altogether there's an absence of any domination. Nobody is going to dominate you, or there's not going to be any conflict. That implies that every citizen enjoys dignity and freedom. Then the third point, it improves the quality of decision making. Yes, it improves the quality of decision making, because basically democracy, it is based on the principle of deliberation and negotiation. In the parliament, every now and then we have deliberations, we have discussions that are going on, that helps to improve the decisions. Whatever you are taking, it helps to improve the decisions. So in a way, every citizen, in a democracy, every citizen takes part in the decision making. May it be directly, they are directly related, or maybe indirectly. They might not be directly related, but they might be indirectly related through their elected representatives. I hope these 3 points are clear to you. So let's say, what if this question is asked for 5 marks? So you have another point that I'm going to tell you. Number 4, it develops a very competitive attitude. When I talk about competitive, that means, it usually develops a procedure to conduct a competition, to have to conduct a very good competitive spirit among different social differences. It reduces social tensions, because from becoming very violent, or maybe giving rise to any sort of conflict, because a lot of people coming up from different sections, different region, they are given their representation, they're elected as the leaders. So there are very less chances of grave social tensions that might crop up. So that's not the case. And also it evolves a mechanism, democracy sort of evolves a mechanism to negotiate. It always negotiates. No society can, I would say, fully and permanently resolve the conflict. Whatever the system of government it is, there are supposed to be, certainly there are many differences. So it's important that you learn to respect those differences that you have, and evolve a mechanism so that the differences can be negotiated or reduced. So the democracies are best suited, because India is a diverse country. So the democracies, they are best suited when you talk about such sort of differences. And also I would say it represents the general view. By which I mean, see, we've covered so many points, like you can fit all these points in different answers. So it provides a general view. That means the majority always need to work with the minority. They can never do away that, okay, we can ignore the minority, because the general view, it's important for the functioning of the government that the general view is taken into consideration. And the last point is, yes, it is accountable, it is responsive, it is legitimate sort of government, because these are the basic features of the government, and this is what they are supposed to stand for, the expectations of the people. They have to look up for the expectations of the people. So these are the basic uh, features of democracy. Cool. So let's proceed what the answer has. So better form of government enhances the dignity, but we've talked to get a lot of points. We've covered a lot of points. Let's revise all those points. Here you go. Promotes equality among the citizens, ensures that there is dignity among the citizens, like it provides dignity, and dignity of individual, may it be women, may it be marginalized section. Then it involves quality of decision making. Then we talked, it develops a competitive attitude because it adjusts the diversity and the differences. Then provides mechanism to negotiate, so that because there's discussion taking place in the parliament, so you always have a platform where you can directly or indirectly negotiate with the government. It provides general view so that majority does not suppress the minority. And yes, it is accountable, responsive, and legitimate government. So I talked about this point, then we covered this. In short, it is people's own government. Room to correct mistakes, you have to underline, improves decision making. I hope it's clear to you now. Okay, so let's see what do we have for the second question. Three conditions in which democracies are able to accommodate social differences. Okay, we anyway covered it in the last answer. That is why I discussed it in length, like in a very detailed manner we covered it. So can I say social differences, because it develops a competitive, we did cover this point, it develops a competitive attitude, it evolves a mechanism to negotiate, discussions are taken place so that you learn to respect the differences, evolve mechanism so that the differences can be reduced. And for this, democracies are suited the best, and also they represent the general view. I hope we've discussed all this in the last question also, and you guys remember these points. So no, see, there's going to be, every society is going to have some conflict. So democracy develops a procedure to conduct, competition among the social class, so that every person has a right to represent or to stand up for the community as a leader, or to get elected as a leader. So we've already covered these 3 points in the last. Develops a competitive attitude, evolves a mechanism to negotiate. Please ensure that you underline these points. And also respect the general view, and every citizen must have a chance of being in majority. That means it is important that not only the majority section rules, but the race or the religion that is in minority also gets a chance to come into power, to negotiate and then proceed further. Okay, so let's see what do we have. The next question. The next question is, okay, guys, do you understand why can't democratic or the modern I would say democracies, they can't exist? For example, I told you what is common in all the democracies of all the world, and you guys told me, okay, something that's common in all the democracies around the world. May it be true democracy, may it be the democracy that's just on the face of it. Something that's common among all of them is the political parties that we have. Yes, of course, in India, anyway, we have 7 national parties. So, how can you justify this statement that this is very important for the proper functioning of the government? See, what if every candidate, if we don't have political parties, that means we're going to have an independent candidate. So just try to understand this. So why it is important to have political parties? Imagine if we have one candidate who's standing, that means independent candidates, one single person, so he won't take charge of the government. Everybody would be concerned about their area. Like for example, in a class, I say, okay, this section is to have a monitor, this section is going to have a monitor, this section, they're just going to be concerned about their own territory. Nobody is going to take care of the area, adjoining area. Plus, I would say they won't come together. All the leaders whom we have elected here, they would never come together unless and until they are brought together. So they won't anyway form the policies for the betterment of the entire or the general public. They'll just try to implement the policies that are good for their own section of the people. So that is why independent candidates are not suited, are not good for the functioning of the government. So I would say every candidate in the election will be then independent if we don't have political parties, and no single person will be able to make promises to the people without any they won't be able to bring in any major policy changes. The government may be formed by independent candidates who wins the votes, but their utility, there is not going to be any utility, because the extent of the control of the government will be very uncertain. You have one person standing from a particular area, he'll be concerned about that area, that's it. Political parties have pan India presence, but if you have one candidate, that's going to be a lost situation. And also the elected representatives, they would be accountable in a way to their own constituency. Whatever they are doing, what they are able to do for their locality, they'll be looking for that. They won't be accountable to whole of the nation. Plus, political parties, they formulate policies, programs for the collective good of the people, to influence the people to know that yes, they are being treated in a better way. But when it comes to individual candidates, nothing of that sort is going to take place, because they'll be concerned only with their own area. So that is going to be the whole crux of this answer. Let's see what we have here. So okay, the answer is, because of course, like I talked, you have to talk about independent candidates also, and then you can write that they unite and aggregate political parties. They like-minded people, they come together, they come from diverse backgrounds, religions, and they work for the betterment of the people. Unity in diversity is the spirit that is associated. And of course, a political party that wins a majority, what it does is it undertakes social, economic or cultural reforms, and try to establish a welfare state. This point is very, very important. So independent candidates you have, all together they are coming and established a very good government by electing people from different backgrounds. So that is going to be the entire crux of this answer. So let's proceed on that note on to the next question, that is, oh, we have two more points. It provides parties, of course, provide a two-way link between the government, and they also impart political education to the people, popularizing their manifesto and stuff like that. But also please ensure that you talk about independent candidates and tell what is the issue, why don't we have them, why don't we support independent candidates, why is it important to have political parties. Okay, so let's proceed. Okay, explain the relationship between democracy and diversity. I believe it's a very, very important question. There is a very, very important relation when we talk about democracy and development. Don't both go hand in hand. So what is the relation? They go together. The first point is they go together because without appropriate policies formulated by the government, we won't be in a position to minimize the social differences, work on political inequality. So yes, it is important that development takes place, but there is equitable distribution of wealth. Second, inequalities exist in democracy, but these inequalities, they can be mastered or they can be eliminated, and you can work on the path of development, on the path of progress, only and only when you have the support of the government, who are implementing the right policies, who are trying to minimize the inequality by making proper policies, formulating good, having proper planning, or coming up with good proposals or programs. And next you can support it that yes, there is, since it is not under dictatorship, so we promote some sort of welfare policies. Also there is, when you have liberty, equality and fraternity, that means anyway you are going to head towards the path of progress, that's going to be working, that's going to work for the betterment of the people. I hope I've made my point clear. So please underline all the important points. Okay, let's proceed for the next question. Okay, very important question, guys. How do democratic governments ensure transparency? I just explained you what is the meaning of transparency, and you have to ensure, how do they ensure it? You have to explain it with 3 points. Okay, the way I told you that yes, democratic governments, they ensure transparency. How can you justify these 3 points? I'm going to give you 5 points because the 5-mark question. So first you're going to explain the transparency definition that we just covered. Now what will be the points? How can I say these things are transparent or they are working for the welfare or betterment of the people? Number one, it's they make sure that the decision making is based on norms and procedures. So whatever the decisions are being taken, they are taken with respect to the norms and the procedures laid down in the constitutions. Second, every citizen is actually participating in the decision making process, may it be directly, or how can you say that your parents are very transparent in their decision when it comes to any decision they have to take with respect to you or your sibling. Number one, they take it, they follow a certain set that is applicable to you also and your sibling also, like your brother, sister, whosoever. So the same concept you can apply between the government and its citizens. Second, you are involved. Transparency means you are involved in the decision making, may it be directly, or maybe you push your elder brother, okay, just ask my parents on my behalf, just try to convey them that I want to sneak out today for a night out or go for a party or something like that. So it's like every citizen is involved in decision making, may it be directly or indirectly, then you can say that yes, I when you're not allowed to go out, what do? You examine, you just check, you find about how correct your parents decision is. Did they take it? So yes, I would say citizens can examine. So just imagine you and your parents, they examine and find out the correctness. What if they don't allow you to go on a night out or maybe a group study that you call it? So of course, what you do, you go and check if it's really transparent, if this rule applies to your brother and sister also, or do they allow them or give them a special privilege to go out, sneak out, have a good time with their friends or something. So yes, it is like you examine the correctness, again a very transparent decision, and then they are accountable. In this case, the government is accountable to the people. They have to satisfy. If you're not satisfied, so imagine decision making, then accountable, sorry, correctness, and then finally accountable. They have to tell, they have the right to change the government in the next election. Of course, uh, in case you can't apply it to your parents, but you, in case of government, it's very important that your needs are satisfied, and if it's not, you have every right to change them in the upcoming elections. That means accountability also comes into play, and also you have to ensure that the power, the people who are with the power or hold the power, it provides the people, sorry, the people who have the power, some answers to their questions. So it reduces the chances of conflict. So, sorry, corruption. So when there is less of corruption, why less of corruption? Because the representatives, they are answerable to the people. So yes, there is less of corruption. And what if you tell, okay, my mom goes to kitty party and my dad goes out and they don't give me a lot of pocket money? That means there's corruption. So similarly, just try to relate it with real world examples, so that, see, you have to mug up a lot of facts, I understand, but if you try to relate it and enjoy the way it comes, so it's going to stay with you for long. I hope I've made my point clear. Okay, so let's see what the answer is to this question. They ensure transparency because people have the right and means to examine the process of decision making. The way I told you, you can easily relate it with transparency, like, okay, did you take the right decision? You didn't allow me to go. Even RTI in this case comes very handy, that okay, you empowered the citizens with right to information, and yes, the democratic government, it develops a mechanism for its citizens, so that the government is more accountable, and also they feel that yes, they are taking part in the decision making. I hope I've made this answer clear, and kind of you guys can correlate it with the real life situation. Okay, so moving on next. The next question is, by the way, this question, the transparency question, it was asked in 2011 CBSE paper. So that is why I had to discuss it in detail. So please mark it, important. Now the next question is, the best laws to bring about political reforms are those that empower the citizens. You have to justify this statement with an example. Okay, so the best laws, they bring about political reform. So when I talk about political reforms, that means the government is supposed to be, legitimate. The government is supposed to be accountable. You have to give it with good, are those that empower citizens. Give You have to give suitable examples. So can I say, it may be very slow, less efficient, and always responsive or clean, but yes, democratic setup is a government that is people's own government. So it has a planned institute and practices. How does it empower the citizen? Because it ensures there is free and fair elections. So give a good introduction that yes, though it is slow, that it is less efficient, but still it is people's own government. Why? Free and fair elections. Then there is regular public debates that take place, because you have those debates and you can feel that yes, you are involved in the decision making. Then there is RTI. Then there is planned legislations. So in a democracy, decisions are taken in a very transparent manner. The citizens have a chance to examine the process. So that is how you basically empower the citizens. Plus, it accommodates social diversity. It is having that whatever point we covered, like competitive spirit or competitive attitude. It has a competitive, okay, I'll write it again. It has a competitive attitude. It evolves a mechanism where a lot of a negotiations mechanism of negotiation can take place. And also it represents the general view. So yes, it empowers not only the majority section but also the marginalized section. So let's see what the answer is. So the legal ways, there are the best ways is, so the legal ways of reforming political is by devising changes in the laws so that the long practices can be brought down. So the best practices are, for example, anything done by the political party, it involves the people. Laws that seek to do something are not very successful. So see, you have a lot of resources that you can refer to, but anyway, it's you guys who have to put in some effort and ensure that you study it well to give good results. So similarly, the best laws to bring about political, now when you talk about political reforms, we all talked about what is, how does it empower. You have to talk about it empowers. You can choose few points, but what if you talk about political reforms, you have to answer this point also. We just talked about empowering the citizens. So when you talk about political reforms, you have to talk about the legal ways are, for example, you can change the policies, you can empower the people, you can seek a ban on something that's not good for the country. For example, we talked about anti-defection law. We talked about affidavits that are supposed to be given by the politicians before they contest the elections. They have to hold meetings, they have to file their RTIs, sorry, income tax returns, everything of that sort. And also laws that give political activists incentives to do things, that have changes, that have more chances of working. We should allow some sort of legal reforms to take place or political reforms to take place so that the citizens, they feel more empowered into the system of the government. Cool, guys. So first talk about, yes, it empowers the citizens and you can pull it some points. Then you can talk about the legal ways, and you have to bring out changes that empower the citizens by molding the democratic setup, or maybe banning something that's not very successful in politics. For example, any legal change that politicians can bring, laws that seek to ban that's not very successful. For example, give incentives. Sometimes all the top leaders, they choose their own family members, so we should stop that practice. We should empower the ordinary citizen also. And also, right to information is a very, very, very important law that probably empowers the citizen. So it acts as a watchdog of democracy. So such laws, they help to bring down the level of corruption. Okay. Next is, how are complaints treated as a testimony of testimony to success of democracy, you have to explain it with 4 facts. Okay, so the more of the complaints that you hear, how can we are going to use the same set of points, but you have to justify this statement. Now see, complaints, of course, they, I would say, they highlight. Let me put on next page. The complaints basically, they highlight the awareness, and talk about the awareness of the people and their expectations. So the complaints, they highlight the awareness of the people, their expectations from the system, so that they can put everything in place. Second important point, it reflects that the citizens are not overawed. That means by those who are in power, they don't try to suppress those who are in minority, and they can objectively and critically examine the difference they have made. It's very important. So it reflects, it highlights, then it is a measure, it acts as a measure that yes, people are participating in the public. If they're complaining, if they're putting forward their complaint, that means anyway they are participating in the decision making that seeks to encourage the democracy or democratic process. Then it is a public complaint is actually a public expression of dissatisfaction that shows that the democracy has not been successful, and it also shows that people have transformed themselves from just being subjects to the king to being citizens. So I'll repeat it again for you. It highlights the awareness, that people are aware, they have some expectations. It reflects that the majority is not dominating the minority and those differences are not overlooked. It is a measure that checks, okay, that checks of their participation in public debates, uh, that encourages the spirit of democracy. And of course, it's a public expression of dissatisfaction that shows the success, how successful the democracy has been. And last, it has ensured, if you're trying to complain, that means you've ensured that the system, there's something wrong with the system and we have to take care of it. And how can you justify it? By telling that we are no longer subjects to the whims and the fancies of the king. We are now citizens who abide the constitution. So let's see, the answer is complaints means there is slow and inefficient government. There's something wrong with the government. Unsuccessful, or maybe it is unsuccessful in reducing the economic exploitation. Not free from corruption. Other points that you can discuss apart from what we've discussed. And also unable to solve economic problem. So these are the questions that you can take, points that you can take into consideration. How are the complaints are treated as a testimony? So whatever I talked, apart from that, you can talk about these points also and summarize your answer. And the last question is, how does democracy lead to peaceful and harmonious life among the citizens? You have to explain this. So yes, it leads to a very peaceful, a very harmonious life among the citizens. Because why peaceful? Because citizens, it gives citizens a very sound political system. Why a sound? Because it is based on social equality. So you've given a good introduction. Now, how can you prove this statement? Number one, it provides a conductive political environment, by which I mean to say that there's conductive means the people are participating in it. Second, every citizen has the right to vote or right to contest in the election. Then it stands for equal economic status of the people. It undertakes the government democracy smoothness, because it ensures that there is social welfare schemes are implemented. Also, apart from this, it tries to resolve the conflict. It tries to resolve conflict among different groups, and also in social sphere. If you talk about the social sphere, it tries to ensure or help that the citizens, they lead a very peaceful and harmonious life by accommodating different social differences. So these are all the points that you have to take care when you talk about this democratic setup. So I'm going to repeat all those points once again. Number one, there is sound. It provides sound political system that is based on social equality. Then it provides a conductive environment so that citizens have active participation in the system. Then every citizen has a right to vote or maybe contest elections. It stands for economic status, like equal economic status in all for all to all the citizens. The government undertakes a lot of social welfare schemes, tries to achieve universal literacy rate, and also in social sphere, like we have, it tries to resolve the have a very peaceful and harmonious life for all the citizens so that they can lead a very peaceful life, have social equality. And also the last point is it tries to resolve the differences with respect to social inequalities, and comes up with a mechanism through which you can negotiate on those social differences also. So here's the answer, how you can prove right to vote, right to contest. In political sphere, you can separate it in and talk about economic sphere in different points, but I've clubbed the answer. If you write it this way, you're going to score more marks. But anyway, the points are same. Again, the social sphere. So yes, you can conclude it's not a form of government. It is a form of society as well as social order. Like we discussed in the last question, you can use the concluding statements accordingly. Okay, guys. So we are done for the day for this class. Thank you so much for joining today's session. You guys can download the PDF link to this class from the app, and the link to the app is down in the description box. So go there, download the app and get the PDF link. You can get access to other study material, classroom notes, videos, and also ask your doubts. So till we meet next, take care, stay healthy, stay hydrated, and please respect your parents. It's very important. Thank you guys. Bye bye. Take care.